Hi, I'm Tyler, and welcome to my 100 subscribers Q&A. So, in case you haven't heard, my YouTube channel, my Christian Music Week Reviews, praise God, and thanks to y'all for your support, has hit 100 subscribers recently. And to celebrate, I opened up the doors for a Q&A, and thanks to Christian Music Girl, Jake, and Kelsey J for commenting me questions to answer. So without further ado, let's get to your questions and my answers. So my first question for today is, so I don't really listen to anything outside Christian music, but from your recent playlists, I can tell that you do. So the question, who is currently your favorite mainstream artist or group and why? So yes, while I do listen to mostly Christian music, which is not a surprise given my channel's content, I do sometimes listen to mainstream stuff too, which I think is okay as long as you're careful, of course, about the lyrics that you play. So the question as to who my favorite mainstream artist or group is, well, I'm actually wearing their shirt, Icon for Hire. So yes, they did start off in the Christian industry, but I can pretty safely label them as a secular group at this point in time. And actually, they're like one of my favorite bands. Them and Skillet I consider to be my two favorites. And why do I like Icon for Hire so much exactly? I just really connect with the themes in their lyrics, like the themes of being different, overcoming adversity, loving the broken parts of who you are. Those are all themes I resonate with in Icon for Hire's music. And also, too, when I struggled with my mental health a little bit during the pandemic, just a lot of anxiety and stuff, I really connected to Icon for Hire's themes of mental health in their lyrics. So that's why I consider Icon for Hire to be one of my favorite groups around. Next question. When did you find out about Skillet? When did I first get into my favorite band? Let's see. So, early on in my Christian music journey, I mainly just listened to CCM and whatever played on K-Love, along with picking up Group 1 Crew and Hawk Nelson. I wanted a station that played Group 1 Crew and Hawk Nelson, so I tuned into this station called Big Fish FM. No, the station does not any longer exist, in case you want to go looking for it. But anyhow, while I previously thought in my only CCM days that I didn't like Skillet, I started actually hearing their songs on Big Fish FM. Their album Awake was out at that time. So I was hearing hits on the radio like Hero, Awake and Alive, One Day Too Late, Forgiven, and Lucy. And also, a friend of my mom's shared Monster on social media, so I ended up hearing that song too. And before I knew it, I was like, okay, I like half the Awake album, so why don't I go and buy me some Skillet? The second half of the album, I would say, took a little bit of getting used to. But overall, I could definitely say Skillet's music is something I've enjoyed throughout the years. I really connect with a lot of the lyrics in their music. And it's been a huge encouragement to me over the years, especially as I've navigated life over the last few years of just trying to make my way forward in the world. Alright, next question. So what inspired you to start a weekly review show? By the way, your first video is also your most popular. If she could change anything about it, what? So, as for the question of how my Christian Music Weekend Reviews was formed, you gotta look back at June 2019 for that. I was dreaming of being a radio DJ, and I needed something that would get me experience and that I could put on a resume. And my mom suggested that I start a blog reviewing music, like a typing blog. And my dad asked if I meant like a blog like what I just mentioned, or a blog like a video blog. And of course, I chose the video blog route, and 3.5 years and 100 subscribers later, here I am still doing this. While my job pursuits have changed a little bit, I no longer want to be a radio DJ now. I want to work in activities at a nursing home, which makes more sense given that I be with people more directly in my work, which suits my personality a little bit better than sitting in a booth and talking at people as my day job. However, that being said, I love reviewing music on this YouTube channel, and even, Lord willing, when I get a full-time job, I want to still be doing this the way that I am now. Also, about my first video being my most popular, and I'm sure that video has gotten a lot of legit views, but kind of funny, I have a feeling some of those views are my own, because I did not know how to check the views or comments or stuff when I first started out, so I kept clicking on my own video to check on that stuff, and unintentionally drove my view count up. So, a little bit of funny story behind the view count there. But in more serious, what would I change about that first video? So, I would say one thing, by the way, I went back and watched that video. I did a lot right in that first video, and I feel like it was a very good first video from me. I felt like I already was doing pretty good there. But one thing that I can definitely say over time that I did not have in that video is I've definitely have developed my own style over time, my own way of doing things, that I do things every week that I'm very comfortable with now. And I wish I had that in the first video. Also, on a lighter note, I got the song meaning behind the very first song I ever reviewed wrong. My first ever song that I ever reviewed was Red single, The Evening Hate. And I totally did not understand the meaning of that song. But thankfully, to be clear, I think I do a lot better job at figuring out the meaning of lyrics now. So, don't worry. I legitimately get it right pretty much of the time now. Which Christian artist did I discover a little late? I would say one pretty good example of that is Mark Stewart era Audio Adrenaline. I remember them being one of the first Christian artists I actually listened to. So one day, me and my grandparents were driving together to Best Buy, and they had Audio Adrenaline's music playing, and when we got to Best Buy, I picked up their Adios Greatest Hits CD, which turned out to be, as the title suggested, their farewell album. So there was a little bit of sadness there. But thankfully, I got the chance to support them later on when Kevin Max and Adam Agee fronted that band. A few other bands I wish I got more time to enjoy. Definitely 1GN. I discovered them like 6 months before they disbanded. But thankfully, their music still ministers to me to this day, and I wish they made more music as a band. Addison Road is another band. I mean, I remember hearing Hope Now on the radio when I was younger, but I don't think I really appreciated them fully until they were close to disbanding. And I wish Addison Road was still around making new music because I just like the sound and how Jenny Simmons' voice sounded on those albums was really good. Worst song or album by an artist that I like. I would say the answer for worst song. Well, I kind of like this song better now, but when I was younger, I was a huge Hawk Nelson fan, especially when Jason Dunn fronted that band. I mean, I stuck around when John Steingard fronted them too, but I really liked Hawk Nelson in particular when Jason Dunn fronted that band. But their song 14, the ooh oohs, and that song just kind of creeped me out a little bit, so I wasn't really a big fan of that one. But to be clear, I think I like that one okay now, and if you play it in front of me, I will enjoy it. Best song or album by an artist that I don't normally like. I would have to say Need to Breathe, Live from the Woods Volume 2. So, typically, I'm not all that big of a Need to Breathe fan. Sorry, because I know there are a lot of Need to Breathe fans out there. But their Live from the Woods Volume 2 album, man, that was such a fun concert album to review. I just liked how much it rocked out, and also it just sounded like a really fun concert experience. Plus, the weather was warm that weekend when I was reviewing it, so it kind of felt suitable to have an outdoor concert album playing in my headphones that weekend. Next question. Do you play any instruments, maybe a piano or a banjo? And the short answer to that question is no. Actually, I often get this question asked to me when I tell people in real life that I review music or I'm really into music. They'll understandably ask, do I play any instruments? And I'll say, no. Now, when I was 12, I was interested in learning the keyboard in my wanting to be a Christian artist phase. But alas, I never really devoted myself to the keyboard, and a musician I never became. Next question is, have you released music as well, whether for a band or solo? Again, no. Now, in that younger phase where I told you about earlier, I did write a few song lyrics, but a lot of them were very cheesy, and we're probably all grateful those songs never saw the light of day. However, though, as a little fun fact, I did record DVDs of myself as Christmas gifts to my grandparents over the years of me singing various songs I know and love to them as Christmas gifts. So I guess I released music to them, but only my grandparents in that small little vague sense. My next question is, are my parents or other relatives big Christian music fans as well? The answer is yes. I grew up in a home where Christian music was played. I grew up on artists like Casting Crowns, Michael W. Smith, and others. I also heard worship compilations being played when I was younger as well. Also, too, it was my dad who introduced me to Christian rap through his copy of Lecrae's Rehab CD. And that's actually how I got into Christian hip-hop, which is a passion that still exists to this day. Alright, the next question is, if you could attend a performance in any venue, where would you go? And who would be your ideal picks to headline that magnificent show? So, just any venue that has, like, really big screens behind it. Kind of like an arena, basically. That would be cool. And if I could have any ultimate concert in the world, I would say a co-headline Skillet and Icon for Hire concert, where they play at least a 2-hour-long set each, and then if we could just reunite 1GN to play a 1-hour set as kind of an opener, I would say 1GN co-headline too, but hey, they only have 2 albums, so I'm not going to call for a super big set from them. But have one GN play as part of that show as well. That would be like my dream concert. Boof. Of all the Christian concerts I've ever been to, which ones were my favorite or most memorable for me? So there are a few answers to this question. One would be Rock and Worship Roadshow 2013. Not only because I got to see Mercy, me, Jeremy Camp, and Cutlass, but I also became a fan of a lot of artists through that tour, like Tadashi, Family Force 5, Luminate, Rut Walker, and Tim Timmons. Another memorable concert would be 2016's All the Earth is Holy Ground tour with 10th Avenue North, Hawk Nelson, and I Am Day. It was just kind of a special night. I mean, 10th Avenue North, VIP meet and greet. It was just kind of a fun experience with the band members chatting it up and stuff. And me and my dad were in the front row during the concert, so we got to see 10th Avenue North, Hawk Nelson, and I Am Day up close. So that was kind of cool. Also, the two concerts I've seen at the State Fair, one year being Skillet, and the other year being Newsboys United. Those were some pretty cool concerts, too. Alright, next question. What is one trend you would like to see in the Christian music industry? So, I like a lot about the Christian music industry, of course, hence why I review music from it, right? But, one trend that I think would be very cool is just, I would like to see very candid lyrics, and I think there's a lot of candid lyricism right now, but I definitely do like hearing raw, honest, been through a hard season type of lyrics, but God brought me out on the other side. I like to see those kind of lyrics when I listen to Christian music, and that's kind of what I would advocate for, I would say. The next question is, in the Bible, what is my favorite verse, passage, chapter, book, or story? So, alright, so I'm gonna name 3 favorite books of the Bible here that I can personally name off. One would be John's Gospel. Actually, kind of a little bit of fun fact here. Excuse me. As a Good Friday tradition every year, I like to watch a movie based on the Gospel of John. So I think that increased my familiarity of it, but legitimately, I think the Gospel of John shows a lot of the great moments in Jesus' life. Also, too, another book of the Bible I would say I really like is Galatians. I think that book really sets apart the importance of salvation by grace alone. No good works can we add to our salvation. And another book that's kind of interesting is 1 Corinthians. It's just kind of interesting to see all the different situations covered in that book of the Bible. Alright, what is my all-time favorite VeggieTales song? Oh man, that's a tough question. VeggieTales is pretty good. They've had a lot of funny ones over the course of their career. I would say a fun one for me is Oh Santa. Jingle Ka-Ching is another one as well. Well, I know, kind of a deep cut. A lot of y'all probably don't even know what song I meant, but that's another funny one. What other ones would I say? There are Sneaky Little People Who Do Sneaky Little Things. That one's pretty funny. And the Barbara Manatee song is another funny one as well. Any tips for sustaining a YouTube career as long as 3.5 years? I would say the big thing for me is just that I make a routine of doing it. Every weekend, when I'm not volunteering, I sit down, I put on my headphones, I review music. So, if you want to keep the YouTubing going this long, I would just say, just set aside time to make YouTube videos and just press on and be consistent, be faithful, doing it every single week. So the next question is, how does autism affect your listening preferences or music review process? That's a good question. How does it affect my listening preferences? So one thing I think that is really helpful for my autism in terms of my taste, I'm going to talk about musically, is I really like anything that's really upbeat. Usually on the pop, heavier rock, or hip hop side of things. Usually kind of a nice way for me to kind of, at the end of a long day when I'm overstimulated, it kind of is a nice way to kind of get it all out of my system, so to speak. So I could definitely say that stylistically. I mean, I like listening to softer songs, like listening to softer worship music is good too. But sometimes I notice that getting myself moving is helpful to me. And then lyrically, I can say too, I do definitely connect to certain lyrics more because of my autism. I would say, like, lyrics about things like, you know, overcoming obstacles, because in real life I have to overcome obstacles, right? Or another thing would be too how God values me even when the rest of the world doesn't seem to. I mean, to be clear, I do have a lot of people in my life that value me, thankfully. But I've definitely had some moments, where I haven't been treated the way I should be. And it's good to listen to lyrics in those moments that remind me, hey, even if nobody else values me, God does. So those are lyrics I definitely connect with. And you can see too, I cover a lot of those themes in my review show. And I guess this is part of where it affected my review process begins. Because those are the lyrical themes I tend to like to focus on, and what I tend to focus on might tend to be what I focus on when I analyze lyrics every week. So naturally, that ends up making its way into what I talk about on my show, ultimately. And also, how does my autism affect my reviewing process? And I would definitely say, I definitely like to be structured. Like, in my schedule in general, so it kind of helps if I know, okay, I'm gonna work on these albums that day. Okay, I'm gonna do that with these albums when I listen to them. So I would say that's definitely how autism affects my. The next question is, what do you think of Southern Gospel like the Isaacs and Jason Crabb? Where I Live, Our Station Plays, Crabb's Good Morning Mercy. Have you heard it? I don't tend to listen to a ton of Southern Gospel, to be honest. I mean, I do listen to mainstream country pop, and of course, too, I know that Southern Gospel elements are incorporated a lot of times into contemporary Christian music. But to be honest, I don't really go looking to listen to too much, specifically Southern Gospel. Just not something I tend to be interested in, As for Jason Crabb's Good Morning Mercy, I have not heard that song, but I have heard a different song off of that same project, and that is his song Just As I Am, and I can tell you that's a good song. What is one of your favorite reviews you've done and why? Well, I've had the privilege of reviewing a ton of great releases over the years, so it's kind of tough to just pick one, but here are a few of my favorite reviews I've ever done, and that would include, one of them would be last year when I reviewed Casting Crowns, Run Collective, and Becoming the Archetype in the same video. I just loved the heart of that video, reaching a hurting world with the good news of the gospel, because there are a ton of hurting people in this world for various reasons. And I really just like the whole heartbeat of that video, that we need to reach them with the gospel. So I love that emphasis in that video. Another one, a couple of songs that particularly stood out to me lyrically in terms of emphasizing what Christ has done for us would be Me on Your Mind by Matthew West. I reviewed the reimagined version featuring Ann Wilson, and I just love that thought. Christ died on the cross. He, with us on his mind, with each of us on his mind specifically. I thought that was an amazing thought. Another one from very early on in my career was Hillsong Worship's King of Kings. That was a very special single to review, and I love anytime I get to review a cover of that song because it's really a good summation of what Jesus did for us during his life on earth, from his birth all the way to his resurrection. Another personally special moment was when I reviewed He-Sun Lee's The Missing Piece, and that was special for me because that was the first time I ever reviewed a song about autism, and one of only 2 times actually I've done that. The other time being Dylan Chase's Every Piece Matters, I think the other one was called. But anyhow, that was just a very special moment because I got to talk about autism in a review, and I really resonated with that song. Even now, I'll still listen to that song sometimes just because I resonate with it so much. Another special moment was when I reviewed Cade Thompson's album, Bigger Story. I just really connected with that album. I saw myself in a lot of ways in terms of, learning to trust God with the orchestrating of the bigger story throughout the years. I've had to learn that over the last few years, and I really resonated with Cade talking about that on his album. Do you sometimes view your own videos? Usually I'll only do that when they first come out, and even then I probably should be better about this. I don't always watch the whole thing when I release it, but I probably should be better about that. Occasionally I'll go back and look at a video if I want to remember what I thought about a certain release when reviewing something that follows it up. Or if I'm interested in listening to a certain artist more and I'm like, okay, I can't quite remember what I thought of that release, so I need to go back and look at whether I like that release or not, because sometimes I don't remember. But yeah, I don't necessarily sit around watching my own videos a ton. Next question. Also, in your first episode, you mentioned you've been into Christian music since 2008, about 15 years ago. But did you grow up in church before 2008? As I said earlier in this video, yes, I've grown up in a Christian home my whole life. And I actually became a Christian a few years before that, before I started listening to Christian music real regularly. That being said, though, I could definitely say that listening to Christian music has definitely been a key part of my growth in my relationship with God, key in growing my faith in Jesus, I would say. What's your favorite genre? Oh man, I like all sorts of different kinds of music. I would say my number 1 favorite genre would be hard rock. I definitely love listening to hard rock. A couple of my other favorite styles that would be high up there is, I really like a good hip hop banger. Like, if it's a hip hop track that hits real hard, I really like that. Also, if it comes with a pop hook, I usually tend to like that too. Also, too, speaking of pop, I like pop music a lot as well. Of course, I like worship. There was a little bit of a phase in my life some years ago when I wasn't as into it as much, but I've definitely gotten back more into worship music over the last few years. I really like worship music as well. What is your favorite lyric that has been stuck in your head this week? I think I'm gonna change that question slightly, and I'm just gonna mention a song that's been stuck in my head it's stuck in my head less than it was when it started being stuck in my head a few months ago, but it's definitely one that's been in my head a lot since Christmas time. And I know this is going to sound kind of goofy because we're a couple months past Christmas now, but this Christmas season, I watched Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special, and it had this really funny song at the opening of this special with "I don't know what Christmas is, but Christmas time is here." And basically, it has an alien basically getting a whole bunch of stuff about Earth's celebration of Christmas wrong. So it's kind of a funny song, and it got stuck in my head. If you can meet one artist and interview them in person, who would you like to interview? Okay, so again, there's a few people that I think would be kind of fun to do interviews with. I don't actually dream of doing interviews a ton, but if I had to name a few Christian artists that would be fun to do an interview with, obviously Skillet, because they're like my favorite. But a few other people, and I'm gonna say this for more personality sake, Newsboys, they seem like really fun people, especially their drummer, Duncan Phillips. He's a character, it seems like. Another one I would mention is, Disciple. I remember watching Disciple concerts via live stream during the pandemic when concerts were allowed in person, and I remember just seeing Disciple, and I noticed two things, and I watched the VIPs of these live stream concerts too, might I add. And two things I noticed about Disciple that I really like. Number one, they have a big heart for Jesus. You can really tell they're the real deal in loving Jesus. And another thing that I also liked about Disciple was their humor. They seem like, fun guys to be around. So if I was ever to get to do an interview with Disciple, I could envision that being a real fun time. KB's another guy who is really cool. He has a lot of neat thoughts on things. Yes, but also KB's kind of a hoot too of a person, it seems like. What is your all-time favorite worship song? Well, I mentioned one of them earlier in Hillsong Worship's King of Kings, and I just like that one. One of those sum it all up songs. A few other ones that have really always resonated with me throughout the years is Hillsong United's Oceans. I mean, that song is a faith booster right there. Another one that has really ministered to me over the past few years is Waymaker. That song, has really encouraged me, reminding me that God is making ways for me, even when I can't see it. Another one that's pretty good too, that it gets stuck in my head sometimes is Maverick City's Gyra. That's a pretty good one too. Let me think up if there's any other worship songs that I can name. One unconventional pick I would say would be Ledger's Completely. I know Ledger doesn't usually get put in the worship genre, but I like the lyrics to that song completely. God loves all of us completely. Who we were, who we are, and who we'll be. He has claimed us as his forever. He loves us completely. In a world that's uncertain, he loves us completely. I like the heart of that one. Well, that's it for this 100 subscriber celebratory Q&A. Again, praise God and thanks to all of you for subscribing to me and supporting my channel over these past few years. Also, thanks to Christian Music Girl, Jake, and Kelsey J for sending in some very good questions. This was kind of a hard video to record because there are a lot of questions to get through, so naturally, it took a while, and I'm sorry that it took so long, over a month after I hit 100 subscribers. But, on the other hand, this was also a very cool video to make, as I got to let you in on some of my musical tastes that you probably didn't know about. some of the reasons why I like the music I like, some things about my upbringing. And it was just overall just kind of fun to let you in on stuff you didn't know about me or I rarely get to talk about on my show as I try to cover the best 5 releases each week. So thanks again, y'all. And I look forward to reviewing more great music for you in the years to come, including a brand new show this Friday. Well, go now, including a new review video. Of 5 more releases. So be on the lookout for that this Friday as always. And we'll see you then. Bye!